Hey there, guys. I don't usually like to call out comments, but this time we're going to do one. This has been it's been so long by the time you're seeing this video since this comment was made that you probably didn't notice it. But on an earlier video, at some point in time, there was a commenter who said something to the effect of, "Oh, you know what? Nobody in the dead ball era was brought out as a pitcher unless there was an injury or some sort of like disaster taking place." I thought of that as I played this morning's game and took Knapp Rucker out earlier than I think most people would. And I thought, boy, I bet I'm going to get some flack from some people if they believe that that's the case. The truth is that in the dead ball era, pitchers did come out of ball games. It's not true that every single pitcher threw a complete game every single time out. In fact, you can actually look back on it and you can see at least the rudimentary beginnings of what modern relief pitcher policy would be. Now, it's obvious that there really was no such thing as like relief specialists. You would just use whatever pitcher you happen to have on the team, right? All that stuff develops over time. And it develops also, I would say, unevenly, right? There are some pitchers you'll find who are chiefly relief pitchers back then, but it's pretty clear from the old newspapers that there was no such thing as like a relief specialist. So let's go here and we'll take a look at one of the more notable ones who just so happened to play today. I'll make myself a little bit bigger to show you what a big head I have. This is Knapp Rucker, who just pitched in our game today. 5'11", he was taller than me. 190, he was heavier than me too. How about that? So interesting. It's always interesting for me to look back at this and think about people saying that, oh, all these guys back in 1908 or whatever, in the dead ball era, they were all undersized and all this stuff. And I look at them and I think, well, they were bigger than me. So I don't know much about undersized and what that's supposed to mean. There have been people who have looked, by the way, at the differences in the size of players and average Americans and so on between now and then. There is a difference. It's not as big of a difference as you think, right? The fact that the seats in like Fenway Park and Wrigley Field and so on were so narrow was not, I guess in part because people were not necessarily, overweight or obese as frequently back then as they might be today. But it's also more because they were trying to cram as many people as they possibly could into the park for financial purposes, right? So anyway, that's another story. Knapp Rucker, let's go here and take a look. We're just going to look at 1908, not at the splits, but the game logs. So we'll click over here on the game logs, and we'll just take a look here and see what happened. We're not even going to worry about days of rest. We're not going to worry about any of the rest of this stuff. We're only interested in games in which he started the game and clearly did not finish it, and we'll be able to tell that by the innings pitch. Look, his first start, he started but clearly did not finish. So how about that? The very first start, it seems that he went 7 innings. He gave up 7 runs, right? But as you can see, he wasn't exactly shelled. Now, Rucker, what we didn't talk about here looking into this, he walked a grand total of 125 guys in 1908. He was not walking guys at the same pace as in like 1949, but this is still pretty bad for 1908. Did strike out 199. But we probably consider him, without looking it up in the James Nair book, I would guess this guy was probably a fastball pitcher who had some control problems. And look at that, he was 23 years old. That may have had something to do with it. So interesting stuff. Good ERA plus, by the way, 113. Not too bad. Not too shabby. But yeah, so you see that, right? First game of the season, he comes out, right? Let's take a look here. He throws 5 innings here in a game. I'm guessing that was shortened. Yeah, that one was short, and we don't worry too much about that. But he was in relief in this one. He couldn't pitch much more. Here's one, though, against the Reds on June 6th, where he only goes a couple of innings. Now, how many runs did he give up is the question. Well, he gave up 2 runs, 4 hits, in 3 innings. That's an interesting one. In fact, why don't we go ahead and look that one up? So that's a little bit different than the one that we saw ourselves. And I'm just curious to see, it's possible that he may have actually been injured, which is what the commentator in question, whose name I can't remember, was speculating about and was thinking might be the case. So let's take a look at this one really quick. This is June 6th, so we'll look at the June 7th, 1908 page. And let's see if we can find the sports section here for you. There we go. Of course, I click right past it. Yeah, 3 straight for the Reds after a terrible inning. Rucker retires in favor of Pembroke Finlayson, who gives them bases on balls, and visitors pile up 6 runs. Yeah, so if you look at this game, I didn't look close enough, but yeah, Pembroke Finlayson pitched. He got one guy out. He gave up 4 walks and 5 runs. It doesn't list any hits. I'm guessing he may have given up a couple hits here or there. I don't know. Maybe he didn't. We'll find out. So let's see exactly what happened. The Reds came right back in the third, a single by Kane, Lobert's triple, and a sacrifice fly by Mitchell, bringing Kane and Lobert across the pan. But that wasn't bad, for while Knapp Rucker had been touched for 4 hits, 2 in the first round being unproductive of tallies, the Superba infielders and most of the outfielders were on their toes, and the crowd anticipated a warm contest. But a clog slipped. Manager Donovan elected to take out Rucker and send Pembroke Finlayson onto the slab. On his face, that didn't look like a bad proposition, for Pem had pitched some great ball this year for other teams, probably minor league teams, and has been working very well in practice, but it certainly worked bad for air. Finlayson was signaled to warm a section of the bench once more. The visitors had the game on ice. Finlayson had warmed up at the same time as Rucker, and just as industriously. Then he had sat through 3 innings on the bench. It might be that his arm stiffened in that time, or it might be that he had an attack of stage fright, but whatever he had or didn't have, the Reds had 2 tallies and the bases full of runners when Penn was finally retired. A great cheer greeted Finlayson when he walked out on the diamond, for he is a Brooklyn boy, manly and popular. So this is probably a guy who was an amateur beforehand. And when he walked Brain, the first man to face him, the crowd simply shouted encouragement to him. When he handed out 4 wide ones to Hulswit, the next batter, the crowd was still patient, hopeful, and encouraging. But when Campbell was also given a free ride, filling the bases, the silence that was ominous fell upon the stands, and there were some scattered cries of "take him out." Remember, he's starting the inning. This is at the start of the 4th inning. The next man, Huggins, bunted, and the ball went to Finlayson. He handled it slowly, and before he got it to Bergen, Brain had tagged the rubber, and the mounds were still populated. Wow. That made the score 3-1, and no one was out. Pem's finish came when he walked the next batsman, Kane, forcing in a run, making the score 4-1, with the bases still full and no one out. That was plenty. George Bell was thrown into the breach, but George had not been able to warm up, and it was a minute or 2 before he became effective. This is really, really interesting. Anyway, so we'll take a look here. Finlayson case again. The Finlayson case is on again. The Lynn Club of the New England League has asked the National Commission to make a thorough investigation of the deal between Brooklyn and Rochester for the pitcher, asserting that it parallels the Nashville Brooklyn affair, in which the local club was fined on the ground that Nashville acted as an agent for Brooklyn. So this is pretty interesting. This is, of course, long before the farm system. The manager of the Lynn Club insists that the Rochester Club acted as an agent for the local organization in drafting the player and then releasing him to Brooklyn for Butler. President Abbott said yesterday that he paid $1,000 for Finlayson and that he will exhibit the check when it comes back in the usual way. Interesting stuff. And yeah, there was a lot of controversy there. I'm not familiar enough to know exactly what happened with this one, but the part that's really interesting is this part about Finlayson coming in to relieve Rucker. It's not clear to me that there was anything wrong with Rucker, like wrong with his arm. And in fact, this idea that Finlayson had also warmed up to start the game kind of tells me that that may have been part of the plan. It may have been, okay, well, Rucker was falling apart a little bit. We know that Rucker had a hard time with his control. So maybe, he gave up 1 walk, right? Maybe the thought was, okay, well, we'll let this kid get a chance. And he didn't really get very much of a chance, I'll tell you that. So all of the guys he let on scored. Pembroke Finlayson, by the way, pitched only 1 third of an inning in 1908. That was his 1908 opportunity. He did pitch 1 more time in 1909. And I know this video is a little bit long, but let's take a look at that just out of curiosity. So going back to this, by the way, with Rucker, yes, it is possible the guys would be taken out before they were completely done and in close games. You can see other examples of this. July 13th, they lost 3-2 to St. Louis. He went only 6, right, giving up only 2 of the 3 runs, and so on and so forth. It's not hard to find this, right? Not every day the guys were taken out, but it happened more often than you think. Finlayson here pitched in part of this laughingstock game, relieving George Bell, who we just saw earlier today, after Bell went only 2 innings. That's September 1st, 1909. So we'll go take a look at that. and take a look and see what's going on, just because it's kind of fun to learn about guys like Finlayson, right? So let's take a look and see what we've got. Speaking of which, does Finlayson have a does he have a biography as well? That's the other question that we have. Oh, look at this, view player bio, so we can get even more information out of there about him. Yeah, we're going to look at the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. We're going to look at this again for 1909 this time, and that was what, September 1st, so we'll look at September 2nd. I don't know, we'll guess, see if we can find this here. And let's see what we can find. There must be another good story here. Hopefully there was actually coverage of the baseball team. Sometimes with these papers, they kind of give up on the team. As much as you think that they love their lovable losers, not always. No, they have good coverage here. Okay, that's about the draft. Not so interested in the Flatbush Stakes. And yeah, here we go. Here's your game. And now we'll take a quick look here and see. The high wind played havoc with the slants of George Bell, and after the Cubs had found him for 9 hits and 8 runs, he gave way to Pembroke Finlayson, who reported a day or so ago. Finlayson's last game with Brooklyn about a year ago covered a part of an inning during which he handed out enough free passes to lose. Despite this, he was applauded as he took up the unequal burden and played splendidly until the 9th, when the Cubs showed that all pitchers are alike to them. Manager Chance retired from the game in the 8th after making 3 hits and 2 runs. "Oh, you quitter," remarked a fan as the gray leader departed. So we'll take a look here and see exactly what happened to Finlayson. Yes, he gave up 4 runs. He gave up more than that. The Cubs lost... I'm sorry, he gave up 3 runs there in the 9th and then 1 in the 4th. So he gave up 4 runs overall. It was hits, where he was giving up a whole ton of hits all over the place. And that's interesting. So there's the story of Pembroke Finlayson to an extent. Let's take a quick look and see if there's any other information here at all. Yeah, there was about 5,000 people there. He made his hometown debut in front of them. Yeah, he just walked a whole bunch of guys. Not necessarily so much else happening here. They didn't put Finlayson in again in 1909, and then at the end of 1910, they held on to his contract. They had him pitch over for the Lawrence Colts in New England, then the Providence Grays. I just realized you probably can't read any of this, so we'll go ahead and enlarge this. Then he was sold to Memphis. Let's see what happened here afterwards. And they're talking about Bill Bernhard, so we'll learn more about him a little bit later on. Look at this. He had a surgery because of a heart ailment. He jumped the gun in his recovery, started throwing pitches in winter 1912, which doesn't really sound to me like jumping the gun, maybe after a year or so. And then he ended up passing away of general peritonitis and myocardial adenitis in Brooklyn on March 6, 1912. That's incredible. So this guy was only 23 years old when he passed away. How about that? That's amazing. Finlayson, by the way, in 1908 was only 19 years old when he played in that game. So that's incredible. That's incredible that this guy would end up having that kind of luck from Cheraw, South Carolina. And so there you have it. That's the story of Pembroke Finlayson. That's the story of Knapp Rucker. And that's the reason why it's not true that dead ball era pitchers would just stay in the game forever. Hope you enjoyed that one. I tell you, we learn something new on this channel every day, don't we? Talk to you later. Bye.